Don't forget to like and subscribe. Depression is something most people experience in one form or another, but there's a side of it that few talk about. We often hear about sadness, low energy, or lack of motivation when someone mentions depression. But the truth goes much deeper. It's not just about feeling down or sad for a couple of days. It's a persistent, overwhelming presence that can disrupt even the simplest parts of life. And yet, despite affecting millions worldwide, depression is still misunderstood by many. Imagine waking up every day and feeling like you're carrying a weight that no one else can see. It's like you're in a fog, unable to feel joy or interest in anything, no matter how much you try. You force yourself to smile or appear normal in front of others, but inside, it's like you're screaming in silence. According to the World Health Organization, over 300 million people suffer from depression globally. But the most surprising part, most of them don't seek help. Why? Because of the stigma. Society doesn't always see depression as a valid illness. It's often brushed off as a phase, a bad mood, or something you can just snap out of. But that's not the reality. One of the biggest misconceptions about depression is that it's just sadness. Sadness is an emotion, one that everyone experiences at some point. Depression, however, is an ongoing condition, often triggered by complex factors such as trauma, genetics, or even environmental stressors. Studies have shown that people who experience depression have altered brain chemistry, which makes it harder for them to experience pleasure. This can lead to a feeling of emotional numbness. It's not about being unable to feel happiness, it's about feeling nothing at all. The reality is that depression isn't just a mental or emotional issue, but a whole body experience. People with depression often report physical symptoms, like chronic pain, headaches, or digestive problems. It's like the emotional pain leaks into your body, making you feel drained both mentally and physically. A study conducted by the National Institute of Mental Health revealed that up to 60% of people with depression also experience significant physical symptoms. And what's even more difficult is that these symptoms are often ignored or misunderstood, further isolating those who are suffering. Another important aspect of depression that's rarely talked about is the unpredictability of it. One day you might feel fine, almost normal, and then the next, it feels like you're stuck in quicksand. The sudden drop can be terrifying. The fluctuation is not just exhausting, it can also create a sense of hopelessness. You start questioning if you'll ever feel like yourself again. The unpredictable nature of depression makes it hard for others to understand because they can't see what's happening beneath the surface. So, what is the truth about depression? It's not just about feeling sad. It's a multifaceted condition that impacts your emotions, body, and even your thoughts. It's persistent, unpredictable, and sometimes feels like an invisible force that takes away everything that once mattered to you. And the hardest truth: you're not alone in this struggle, even though it may feel like it at times. Depression doesn't define who you are, but it can shape how you experience life. Recognizing it is the first step, and reaching out for help can make all the difference. As much as depression can feel isolating, it's important to acknowledge that it doesn't just affect the individual suffering from it. Depression can ripple out and impact relationships, careers, and the daily lives of everyone around them. Friends and family may feel helpless, unsure of how to provide support or what to say. Some might even unknowingly contribute to the stigma, dismissing the condition with phrases like, "just think positive," or "it's all in your head." These well-meaning but misguided comments can deepen the sense of loneliness and frustration for someone already struggling to find their way through the darkness. Yet, studies show that the support of loved ones can play a critical role in the journey to recovery. According to a study published by the American Psychological Association, having strong social connections can greatly reduce the severity of depression. Knowing that someone understands, or at least tries to understand, can be incredibly healing. But what's often difficult is that people with depression may push others away, not because they want to, but because they don't have the energy to explain themselves. They may feel like a burden or fear that no one could ever truly understand what they're going through. This internal conflict makes it even harder to reach out for help, even when it's most needed. Moreover, depression doesn't always look the same in everyone. While it's often depicted in media as someone crying in bed, for many people, it's about appearing perfectly fine on the outside while feeling broken on the inside. Some individuals might become more irritable or withdraw from social interactions altogether, hiding their true feelings behind a facade. These behaviors are often overlooked or misinterpreted by others, making the person feel even more misunderstood. In fact, the National Institute of Mental Health has found that the most common forms of depression, such as major depressive disorder, can vary in intensity, duration, and how they manifest. It can even be triggered by seemingly small events that others wouldn't consider significant. But perhaps the most critical truth about depression is that it's not something you can just snap out of. It's not a lack of willpower or a weakness in character. It's an illness that requires proper treatment and care. Therapy, medication, lifestyle changes, and support networks all play a role in recovery, but the road is often long and difficult. Progress can be slow, with many setbacks along the way. There's no quick fix, no magic pill that will make everything better overnight. And this is where the misconception of depression as a quick fixable problem does the most harm. It creates an unrealistic expectation that when someone does reach out for help, the solution should be immediate and perfect. The journey toward healing is messy, filled with ups and downs, but it's important to know that recovery is possible. A growing body of research is focusing on the ways to not just treat depression, but to help individuals build resilience and coping strategies to manage it long-term. Mindfulness practices, for example, have been shown to help reduce symptoms of depression by teaching individuals to manage their thoughts and emotions in healthier ways. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, has also proven to be one of the most effective forms of therapy for treating depression by helping people challenge negative thought patterns and replace them with healthier, more balanced ways of thinking. These therapies don't promise instant results, but they lay the groundwork for building a life that feels more manageable, even with depression. It's also important to highlight the need for better education and awareness surrounding mental health. Too often, mental illness is misunderstood, and people who suffer from conditions like depression are left to battle it in silence, feeling as though they must keep their struggles hidden for fear of judgment. A study by the National Alliance on Mental Illness shows that 60% of people with depression never seek professional help, with many fearing the stigma attached to their condition. This needs to change. When we start talking about depression openly, when we make it clear that seeking help is not a sign of weakness but of strength, we begin to create a world where mental health is just as important as physical health. The truth is that depression doesn't define a person. It may shape their experiences, but it does not determine who they are. Each day is a step in the journey, and though it may feel impossible at times, there is always hope. It's essential to remember that if you're struggling, you don't have to do it alone. Reaching out to a therapist, talking to a friend, or even just taking small steps toward self-care can create a positive shift, no matter how small it seems at the time. Depression may be hard to talk about, but the more we open the conversation, the more we help those who are suffering find the light they need to move forward. The most powerful realization for anyone battling depression, or even for those witnessing it from the outside, is understanding that the road to recovery is uniquely personal. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. While some people might find relief through medication, others might benefit more from therapy, exercise, or simply adjusting their lifestyle. What's crucial is recognizing that recovery isn't linear. It's not about jumping from one day feeling completely overwhelmed to another where everything is suddenly perfect. Recovery can look like taking one small step forward, even if that step feels insignificant in the moment. For many, the road to healing starts with self-awareness. The first step isn't necessarily about solving the problem but acknowledging it. It's recognizing that you don't have to power through everything on your own. Taking a step back and acknowledging that you need help, that you're struggling, is in itself an act of courage. A person might find themselves on a long, winding path of self-discovery and learning, where small victories like getting out of bed or making it through a difficult social interaction are significant milestones. These moments deserve recognition. They are the pieces of the puzzle that eventually form a bigger picture. A picture that shows that even in the depths of depression, progress is still possible. There is another layer to this journey, one that often doesn't get enough attention: the importance of self-compassion. People with depression are often their harshest critics. They internalize the feeling of being a burden, and this self-criticism can create an unbreakable cycle. Studies in the field of psychology have found that practicing self-compassion can drastically improve emotional well-being and even help reduce the severity of depression. Being kind to oneself during the darkest moments isn't just about allowing yourself to feel better. It's about treating yourself with the same empathy that you would offer to a friend in a similar situation. It's about understanding that you are not weak for feeling this way, nor are you any less deserving of happiness because you're struggling. At the same time, it's crucial to address the role of lifestyle in managing depression. Exercise, diet, and sleep habits have a profound effect on mental health. Studies show that physical activity can increase the production of neurotransmitters like serotonin, which help regulate mood. It doesn't mean you have to run a marathon or engage in intense workouts, but something as simple as a daily walk in the fresh air can help lift some of the heaviness. A well-balanced diet rich in nutrients can also provide the brain with the tools it needs to function optimally, while good sleep hygiene can work wonders in improving mood and overall energy. Depression often disrupts these basic needs, but focusing on them as part of the healing process can play a significant role in reducing symptoms. However, the most important message in all of this is that depression is not a character flaw. It's an illness that deserves the same level of attention and care as any physical ailment. Just like you would visit a doctor for a persistent cough or unexplained pain, addressing mental health struggles with the same seriousness is essential. What society often fails to recognize is that depression is not simply a state of mind. It's a complex, multifaceted condition that involves chemical imbalances, genetic factors, and environmental triggers. Understanding that it's not something you can just will yourself out of is an important part of eliminating the stigma and making sure that people get the support they need. While the discussion surrounding mental health has made strides in recent years, there's still so much work to be done. We need to break down the barriers that prevent people from reaching out for help, whether those barriers are societal, internal, or even financial. Resources, support systems, and a culture of understanding need to be more accessible. This starts with everyday conversations, discussing mental health openly, without judgment or shame. In the end, the truth about depression is that it's not just an individual's battle. It's a societal one. The more we as a community are able to acknowledge the impact of mental health, the more we can foster an environment where seeking help is normalized. The truth is, people with depression deserve the same empathy and care as those dealing with any other serious illness. Recovery doesn't mean it will go away completely, but it does mean that there is a path forward. No one has to face depression alone, and acknowledging its existence is the first step toward healing.